Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 431 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. What's going on? Are you guys out there living a big life? Are you trying new things? Things that make you scared? I hope so. I mean, that's what we're meant to do. Why else would we have a desire for more every time we reach a goal we've set? Well, it's because we were absolutely designed to live life to the fullest. And when we don't, we feel tired and bored and sometimes a little depressed. That's why it's so important that we never stop living. My big sister found that that's the only way to move forward after tragedy. So her husband died over a year ago now. But the only way for her to move forward is to keep living, even when it's uncomfortable. Well, that's for all of us. So she's been learning to make pottery. She has this pottery wheel that she bought, and she found this huge kiln on Etsy. And so she started out trying on her own with the pottery wheel, but it's not quite as easy as some people make it look. So after a little while of her working with it, I suggested she come to Memphis for a class to learn. And so we looked around and we found one, and she was really nervous to do it alone. She had a stroke years ago and still has some issues from that, but she did it. She did it anyway, and she ended up loving the class. She learned some really valuable things in it. But once she got back home to her own pottery wheel again, now she's struggling, and the clay was flying everywhere, and she just couldn't get it to work the way she wanted to. It was so uncomfortable to use it. So she ended up pushing it aside and went back to hand making pottery without the wheel, which is lovely and very much in her comfort zone. But not what she ultimately knows she wants or needs to do if she's going to make a little business out of it, which she wants to. So we talk about it, and she decides she's going to take another class. And she wants to do another beginner's class because she hasn't been practicing on the wheel for a while, and it was so awkward. Well, this time the instructor, bless her heart, was very young and not very confident. And there were 8 people in the class, most of which had never even worked on a wheel once. So it was a semi-disaster. I know, because I took the class with her along with a couple of my friends. I mean, it really is not easy at all to get that wheel to do what you want it to. It's very hard. But my sister, she knows that, and she knew what she was getting into. She didn't quit. She gave it another shot. And I know she's super glad that I went and my friends went, because it made her realize it isn't just her that's awkward in the beginning. It's everyone. It takes a lot of failures to make a success, especially on that pottery wheel. I mean, if she quit using the wheel because it's uncomfortable, it's not working out, she's not ever going to succeed. But if she keeps doing the wheel, she's going to fail a lot, just like we all do, and eventually she'll succeed. That's how it works. The young girl that taught that pottery class learned that too. I mean, she was new to teaching and was very nervous. It was a beginner's mug making class, and about halfway in, I really wasn't sure any of us were leaving that class with a fully made mug. It was that bad. But guess what? She told us up front she was new and that she was nervous. And that kind of put us all on her team. And we were rooting for her. I love that she did that, because had she not told us, then we may have been a little frustrated, because she was not able to help everyone in the way that we really needed it, because we were all so new. And at one point it was a little comical with clay flying everywhere, but we all have to start somewhere. We all had to start somewhere. She had to start teaching somewhere. We had to start learning how to do our own thing on that wheel. And honestly, that may have been the very first class she ever taught, for all I know. And she probably learned a bunch that night that will make her better for the next class. If she sticks with it, she's going to be just fine. And it was a little bit hairy during the class, but she could have been doing anything that Friday night that would have been a lot more comfortable for her than putting herself in front of 7 adults and 1 teen that were looking to her to teach them how to make pottery on a machine that does not cooperate if you don't know what you're doing. But she hung in there, and I'm sure she grew from the experience, and we all had a really good time. There were lots of laughs, and yeah, we all ended up with some version of a fully formed mug. I don't know how it happened, but it did. There were a lot of fails that night, and ultimately a lot of successes too. We all grew, which I love. I hope I never stop failing, because that means I'm doing new things, and doing new things a lot of times comes with embarrassing moments. I remember my first interior design job ever. I was a nervous wreck. I felt like this client was going to sniff out that it was my first job. I knew she was going to know I hadn't done this before, and I had all these ideas. I was like, what if I can't answer all of her questions? What if something goes wrong? I mean, I had all kinds of unhelpful thoughts while I was driving to her house. But I went anyway, and it turned out just fine. And while I was there, we decided we were going to do wallpaper in her dining room. And I thought, okay, great, this will be fun. I get to go look for wallpaper. And so I told her I would bring 3 options back to her the next week. So off I go into a wallpaper place for the first time as a new designer. And I tell the lady working there that I'm looking for wallpaper for a high-end design client. And she was showing me the books for that level, which she thought would be high end. And I pointed to a book I saw, and the name was one I wasn't sure how to pronounce, so I butchered it when I said it. Now, she looked at me like I was just like a complete idiot, and she proceeded to say, if you're a designer, you should know how to pronounce the word Tebow. I mean, very condescendingly, she said that to me. Now, that was the brand's name. It was spelled Thibaut. And how would you know how that was supposed to be pronounced unless you'd heard it or you'd been around? Now, I didn't think that was a very nice way for her to educate me on that, but I never forgot how to pronounce it. So you've got to get uncomfortable to be successful. I could tell you hundreds of embarrassing experiences like that have made me the designer that I am today. And so could anyone else that's really successful at what they're doing. I mean, when you start anything, you're going to be new. You're going to have a learning curve. You're going to fail and fail and fail. But in the meantime, you're also going to grow. And as long as you keep growing, eventually you will succeed more than you fail. And that's the goal, really. Because if you ever stop having moments where you fail, then you've stopped growing. And then you get stale. And as a designer, would never want to do that. I still learn something new on every job. And I hope that never stops, because that means I'm reaching for new and better designs with each project, not just sticking to what I know and what's comfortable. I'm reaching for the best possible outcome, not the comfortable one. And that should be our goal for life, right? In everything we do, what's the best possible outcome? Most of the time, you're not going to find that in your comfort zone. I've been swimming. I've talked about it a little bit. I've been swimming with my friend Lena, and the other day we were in the pool doing drills, and I said, okay, you want to go another 400 meters without stopping? And she said, we just did that. We should go at least 500 meters. And that's one of the reasons I love her. I'm never hanging out in my comfort zone when we're doing things together. We're always pushing limits, because our limits are usually self-imposed. I did that 500 meters, no problem. See, that limit was not true for me. My big sister thought because of her stroke, she was awkward on the wheel, which is why she kind of pushed it aside. She confessed to me later that's why she stopped. She thought it was because she was never going to be able to do it because she was so awkward. She thought she was awkward because of her stroke. I laughed and I said, what does that say for me? I was more awkward than you, and I haven't had a stroke. But you see, that thought was keeping her from continuing to fail on the wheel, because she thought her failing meant she couldn't do it, when in reality, it just meant she couldn't do it yet. She had a self-imposed limitation that wasn't real. What self-imposed limitations are you putting on yourself? There's so many that we do without even questioning them. I have found myself doing it regularly. I try to catch myself anymore, but there was times where I was like, there's no way I could ever run 3 miles, or there's no way I could ever stop eating sugar. There's no way I could ever stop drinking alcohol. You tell yourself there's no way I could ever do this or that. And those are sometimes just thoughts we have in our head that we never really realize we're thinking. But have you ever stopped and questioned those thoughts? Now, is it because you tried and failed? Is it because you tried and got embarrassed so you quit? Or maybe it's because you've never truly tried. All of those are self-imposed limitations, and we all have them. And we all can get past them too, but usually not without some discomfort and, unfortunately, sometimes embarrassment. And sometimes we think we should go through life without having any discomfort whatsoever, and we certainly don't want to have embarrassment. But that is only going to happen if you never leave your house or you always live in your comfort zone. And that's when you start getting tired and lethargic and you feel like, what's the meaning of life, right? So my point is to listen to yourself think when you're wanting to try something new. Our brains, it wants to protect us. And staying comfortable is really a protection. So if you listen and you really hear what you're saying to yourself, you'll see that those limitations you hear, you don't have to believe them, unless you want to stay where you are, of course. But if you don't, if you want to get on the other side of them, it's going to take grit and determination. And yeah, every once in a while, a little embarrassment, which never killed anyone, thank goodness, because I would have died over 100 times by now. My challenge to you today is to stop the next time you find yourself having a limiting thought and ask yourself if it's true or if it's just a protection mechanism to keep yourself safe and comfortable. My guess would be the latter. I guess the real challenge, though, is to get okay with not being good at something right out of the gate. Be okay with the discomfort of not being great the first time you do something, or the second, or the 100th for that matter. Be okay with being new, and let other people be new too. Share this with 3 people who love to try new things. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.